Merci, grand maître Ralph Slaughter. Vous êtes un grand maître de la loge Prince Hall des États-Unis et vous allez nous parler de votre œuvre et comment vous avez réussi aux États-Unis à émerger aux États-Unis. Thank you very much, Grand Master Ralph Slaughter, for granting this interview to our media and also to give a message. And we are very, very happy to meet you in order to have the ideal of your organization, your current action, and the possibility for working for African diaspora in France and in Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Can you explain the history of the foundation of the Prince Hall Masonic Lodge and what this organization do in the history of freedom in USA?
Sure. The history of Prince Hall Masonry began in 1775, in the early stages of America. Prince Hall was a part of the American Revolutionary War. That's how old that was. 1775, Boston, Massachusetts. He began as one who opposed slavery in America. Because most of us of color came to America by way of the slave trade from Africa through various ways, but our ancestors ended up in America as slaves. And so he was a big proponent, particularly up in Boston, Massachusetts. There were free men of color, but most of the people down south of America were slaves. And so he spent a lot of time not only supporting the American Revolutionary War to create America from Britain, but to free the slaves.
Okay.
That took a long, long time. We're still fighting. We've been fighting most of our lives, but as we have come to know and learn the principles of Prince Hall Mason, education was a big part of making sure that we knew who we were, where we came from, and not only that, reaching back. And so that's what we are doing now. We're spending a lot of time on not only embracing our African American history in the USA, but also reaching out to our brothers in France, reaching out to our brothers in the other African countries in the continent of Africa. We are one. We learned very early that we are all tied together.
Okay. And
it's all about unity, one helping the other. That is our message, and that's what we are doing in Prince Hall Masonry. Brother to brother, standing shoulder to shoulder to do better for our people.
What are the ideals and principles underlying your organization?
Well, truth is a principle. Friendship, relief, brotherly love, taking care of one another, supporting one another. It goes back to the early days of the motherland, one helping the other. That has never changed, and we must continue to help one another. Masonry just allows us, particularly Prince Hall Masonry, to bond together. We know we can trust one another. And it's our job to help each other, lift each other up. I worked in education a long, long time. I worked at the university, and we taught our youngsters to help one another, love one another, give respect to one another. We are our brother's keeper.
Comment ces idéaux ont influencé votre carrière, vos actions en tant que leader? How have these ideals influence your career and your action as a leader?
So, most of what influences me is probably things I learned from my parents. Our parents instilled a lot in us to get the best education and knowledge we could get. Learn that all you could be the best that you could be. Try to do better than our parents were able to do. Support your neighbors and your community. And so from a personal standpoint, that has engraved in me a path forward. And as I talk to my children, I instill many of those same principles into them. We must look out for each other. We must support each other. We must help those that are less fortunate than we are. Collectively, there's strength in numbers. The more of us that are on the same page and the more of us that do the same thing, then the better off we're going to be.
Quels sont les principaux accomplissements de la Loge Prince Hall depuis sa création? What are the main accomplishments of the Prince Hall Lodge since its conception?
So since 1775, when Prince Hall first started in Boston, Massachusetts, when you think about what times must have been like then in America, it was very difficult for people of color as they fought for the freedom of those people of color who were down south, who worked in the cotton fields, who worked in the cane fields, who did slave labor. Our ancestors toiled in the venue, very, very difficult. It was very difficult for them during that time. They were beaten, they were killed. Whatever was necessary to try to bring about conformity. But in spite of that, they learned how to overcome. And they rose up from the most adverse of situations to become leaders. In my lifetime, I never thought I would live to see a man of color become the President of the United States. But it showed you that we have come a long way. It shows you what you can do. We have people now of color who have become presidents of major corporations. The vice president is a black female. I never thought I would see that in my lifetime. Barack Obama became the president. We have senators represented. So now we are found in all walks of life because we have worked together to support each other in unity. And that is the message that we carry throughout Prince Hall Mason. We work together, we can accomplish anything.
In trust.
And not just in Louisiana, not just in the United States, but around the world. And we have to do all we can because we know that even within our countries in Africa, there's a lot of poverty, but there's a lot of wealth. So if everybody pulls together to help, we can help one another. We rise up. We rise up.
Together.
And continue, we rise up together.
Ralph Slaughter, qui est une vraie sommité aux États-Unis. Rien ne se décide aux États-Unis concernant la communauté noire sans lui. The man without whom nothing for the black community in the United States of America is decided. When there is a big decision in the United States, Mr. Slaughter is consulted before. You are listening to one of the most people important for the black community in the United States. Thank you very much for.
Well, thank you for having me. I mean, I've been blessed, and I've had a lot of positions of influence in education, in government. So we know our share of people in life is based on relationships. So we try to use those relationships to enhance our people.
Comment est-ce que Prince Hall s'adapte aujourd'hui aux défis contemporains? How does the Prince Hall Lodge adapt to contemporary challenges?
Well, you have to adapt to whatever your situation is. for an organization to exist as long as it did. Again, Prince Hall Masonry started in Boston, Massachusetts, 1775.
Yeah.
That was the early stages of our country. The United States of America is a very young country compared to other countries around the world. France, the country of France, the country of Spain, the continent of Africa. Those are very, very old. So around, the 1700s is when the formation of the United States began. So Prince Hall was at the beginning of it, and he expanded masonry through Rhode Island, which was close by, through Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and eventually all around the United States and now around the world. But you have to change with the times, or else you cease to exist. And it's all about their strength. We learned early on their strength in numbers. So the more things we can do collectively, the more influence we're going to have whatever going on. That especially applies everywhere. Voting is important.
Voting is important.
Voting is very important. It affects everything. Who is in charge? We have seen in America the importance of voting. Again, in my lifetime, as I told you earlier, I never thought I would ever see Barack Obama or any other man of color become the president of the United States. But because of the collective will of all the people that came together, he put together a coalition. So citizens of all colors en masse supported him. He received tremendous vote. So when you see that, you realize that if we come together collective, we can do anything.
That's the main challenge today.
Yeah, it is.
We are facing.
It is. Because we don't always have the same collective interests. Sometimes they peel some of us off on false hopes. But we must be collective in all that we do to benefit our best interests.
Et parmi ces idéaux aujourd'hui, dans le contexte actuel des États-Unis, quelle est la place, l'importance de la lutte pour l'égalité et la justice sociale? How important are these ideals in the current context of the struggle for equality and social justice?
So let's look at contrast of why it is important. It affects everything we do. Right now, for example, in America, we are going through situations where in every country is probably a major two-party system, although I see in some other countries, I watched the election the other day in London, and I saw they had more than two parties, but in the U.S. it's a two-party system. Normally Democrats and Republicans. And the Republicans are very, very conservative. They want to keep all the money. They want to control all the power. In the last election cycle, right after Obama left, came Donald Trump. He told people stuff that he just made up off the top of his head, and yet people seem to follow him no matter, just because they like his policies. Even though they know he's a big old liar, but they like his policy. He represents the greatest threat to a lot of us because many of those policies do not include us collectively. They might include a few people, but collectively it's not. So it is important that we, again, maintain our collective will to make sure that we do things that support our community. They were able to, I mean, you sit there and watch, he was able to make one speech and something happened that I never thought I would see again in my life, where people came out and just attacked the Capitol. You've seen that happen around the world, but you never expected to see that in the U.S., where people came there, attacked the police office, they destroyed the Capitol, they were going to try to do away with the democracy, where he basically wants to convert into a dictator. We've seen even in countries in Africa where there are dictators ruling people. The dictators look out for themselves. They don't look out for the people. And over time, you have to create that kind of situation. I had the privilege and honor, and I'll never forget this. I spent a week with Nelson Mandela. He came to my university. We kept him for a week. He was there. We named the School of Public Policy after him. We gave him an honorary PhD in public policy. Okay. And we did a joint banquet with him. At the time, the president of LSU was a white South African by the name of Dr. William Jenkins. And so we collaborated on a banquet, and just being around him, you learn the art of patience. As he talked about all the time he spent in jail, but later on became the president. He said something. He said, oftentimes in our own home, we are not recognized for all the stuff we do. Sometimes you have to go somewhere else for people to recognize the things you do. So I learned a lot of wise things from him. He said sometimes the best jewel is right there among you. You don't even know you're looking for it, and it's right there by you. So it was a tremendous time that week, just listening to his wisdom and knowledge and gaining from him. I'll never forget that.
Pouvez-vous nous dire quelles sont ces initiatives que vous prenez aujourd'hui et quelle est votre implication personnelle dans ces initiatives? Can you tell us about your personal involvement in the new initiative you take in this area?
So, my philosophy is, and it is based on my interactions with people like Grandmaster Patrice. He, at one time, actually belonged to the Grand Lodge of England. And I think doing his review and study, he realized that there was Prince Hall masonry in America. And having visited the Grand Lodge of England, I realized, looking through their history books, they had people of color who were in masonry in the 1500s, but they used a lot of those people to control Africans at that time when they were in Africa. And he realized he wanted to be a part of Prince Hall masonry of free people of color, as opposed to those who had been the oppressors. And the more we talked, we got together. He went through North Carolina. They started establishing lodges. And there are a lot of people who look like me, who look like you, who look like him, that have the opportunity to expand our message. And so we started developing these collaborations where Prince Hall masonry could be brought more and more here in the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of France. Some of those roots have now extended into Africa. And so why not take the knowledge that we have on how to work together collaboratively and spread it throughout the motherland. And so that's important to him. That's important to me. It brings on a lot of strength. It brings on a lot of unity. And change can come about through those kind of collaborations. And that's what we're looking for. That's the purpose, that's the initiative, that's the rationale, and that's our goal.
Quels sont les défis que vous rencontrez dans la mise en œuvre de ces projets? What are the challenges you are facing in implementing this project?
Well, same kind of challenges almost with anything else you do, because anytime there is a major initiative of collectiveness of people of color, those who have the power don't want to share it. And so he faces, and I guess all of us face, because we're in it with him together, some of the greatest challenges are those that have been in power through mainstream Mason for a long time don't want to see those kind of efforts take root because they bring on significant changes in the community. But we're going to continue to support those efforts because as you carry the message, as with anything, the struggle is never easy. Again, having gone through this, I'll share an experience with you that actually brings it home. In my home church, there was a pastor there. His name was Dr. T.J. Jemison. He was actually the pastor who, T.J. Jemison was also a Prince Hall Mason. He and others brought Dr. Martin Luther King to Baton Rouge, my hometown, and taught him how to do the bus boycott. He learned from there how to do the bus boycott. I never forget Dr. Jemison and others talking to me about that, how Martin Luther King came in and learned how to do the bus boycott. He took what he learned and went back to Alabama and put the one that actually you see about and you read about, the bus boycott. That was him. Benjamin Hooks, who was president of the NAACP, was also the Grand Master of Tennessee. So there was a lot of collaboration going on within the family. Thurgood Marshall, the first black Supreme Court justice of color, was a Prince Hall Mason. He wrote papers saying that were it not for the collective efforts of the Prince Hall Masonry, they would not have had the money to fund those cases for people of color to have equal opportunity, education, transportation, housing. So we've always been there in the fight, in the struggle. Most people didn't know it, but now we talk about it because we take that message on and we want to bring that message through the Grand Master of France, the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of France, the Prince Hall Grand Lodge that are going on in the countries of Africa, so that we can continue collectively to make a difference.
How Black American Prince Hall Loge, and can cooperate with people of the diaspora in France or in Africa. Quels sont, selon vous, les principaux défis auxquels la diaspora africaine en France et en Afrique est confrontée aujourd'hui? What about the main challenges facing the African diaspora in France or in Europe today from your point of view?
Okay. I think the main challenge is lack of understanding. I think oftentimes people are afraid of change. And so that lack of knowledge and people afraid of change tend to create barriers that you have to work through. However, one of the things I saw today helps me realize through time, patience, perseverance, you can work through that. At the Grand Lodge today, we just had lunch. You saw us sitting at the table with maybe 8 non-Prince Hall Masons. And one of the things that came out of that conversation was Masonry can be universal. Because there were different Grand Lodges. There are a lot of other non-Prince Hall Grand Lodges in France, in Africa. People who are not of our color, our hue. But in that conversation, you witness us talk about how Masonry in general can bridge a lot of gaps. And so as people become more comfortable, they become less afraid to work together, to work collectively. That is the dream. The more we can work together, shoulder by shoulder, and take away the fears of other people, then we get to do more things. It's the fear of people that have caused all the barriers that I can think about in most of my life. People look at me, I look different, so you know, they initially want to handle you differently. They're not sure whether you have, you know, then you have conversation, they realize you know as much about subject matters as they know about. And so those barriers tend to come down. In the older day, they used to say hearses have to roll for people to change, because the older generations were set in their ways. The newer generations, they go to school together, they do everything. And so that represents the greatest opportunity for us to work together, but it requires some education there so people have a better understanding so that those do not become barriers and challenges for us.
That's what you promote today.
Absolutely.
How can this be improved more and more?
Communication.
Communication.
Communication. Communication can go a long, long way to people having an understanding about what you're all about, what you're trying to do. And that how if we work together to improve our community, it improves the total community, not just theirs, not just ours, but together we got a better community as we talk and develop better understanding.
And communicate more.
And communication. I mean, again, I learned that so much listening to Nelson Mandela. When you think about what he went through, 29 years in jail, and then he became the president of South Africa. With all our apartheid that was going on, he managed to make some major changes in his community. Communication, understanding, brotherly love. You can get a lot done if you get on the same page. And that's all Martin Luther King preached. You know, he was American, you know, everybody looked up to him, and all he was trying to do was make changes for our people. He gave his life doing that, but he preached brotherly love, equal treatment. And he gave that dream, I have a dream. You know, it was all about brotherly love, people get along together. Those values are still true today.
Then, something appears, all you are saying, education is the key.
Absolutely.
Education is the key. And this is there any initiative, cooperation, or thing you can say out like this as an example of what we can do?
So every country is different in my mind and perspective. But for example, in the U.S. where I'm from, and actually all throughout the U.S., we believe that training had to start early. And so early. So we spend a lot of time, what we call programs where we mentor young boys. They seem to be the ones that are further behind. They tend to be higher at risk. In America, there's a high risk of incarceration of black boys being locked up in jail. Some of them being locked up there for a lifetime. So we spend a lot of time trying to mentor them, trying to give them an education to show them that is really the way out. A lot of guns have fallen into their hands, probably more than any other country. So that is a big problem that we spend our time working on, educating our young men. We have lots and lots of mentoring programs so that if they can see a lot of young boys come out of single family homes where the mother is all they see. We want to bring in more men so they can have exposure to mentoring our young boys, teaching them that education will put them on a different path. You don't want to spend the rest of your life in jail. And so we spend a lot of time doing that. That's probably a bigger problem in America than a lot of other places. So we spend a lot of time education, mentoring. There's a better pathway. There's some things a woman cannot teach a young boy. Even from the old customs and the traditions, it was the man who taught the sons how to go forward. And we we are pressing hard to bring those back because that's extremely important.
May I try to make a summary? Je peux essayer de résumer quelque chose. Dans les communautés, c'est les hommes qui doivent prendre en charge les garçons pour les éduquer. Une femme seule, comme il y a beaucoup de familles seules, ne peut pas éduquer un garçon. I try to summarize what you are saying. In a community, the men have a role to educate the boys.
Yes.
And don't let the education of the boy only to the mommy, to the mother.
Yes.
Who are sometimes alone.
Yes.
That's what.
Yes, that's the message. That is the message. Because in some things, only men can teach boys.
Only men can.
But the men have to be there to be able to teach the boys. So our philosophy is if the father is not there, then we want to use a surrogate father to fill in that role.
You bring the father back to the role and make them play the role.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Important.
That's very
and because in America, during the time of slave, the father and the mothers got separated. It's still showing up in our community. And so we're working hard that if the father's not around, that we replace that person with a surrogate father who can mentor that child to bring them around.
Thank you so much. I have many other questions, but you had said the most important, and education.
Education.
Bring back father to home to teach the boy. Make community great.
Make community great.
Make community work together. And then things are going on.
Pretty simple stuff. It's just hard to do. You just got to keep working at it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You have given us the most message we can hear from you. And I'm very, very happy. Je suis très heureux parce que vous nous avez dit l'essentiel en quelques mots de ce qui est important pour faire bouger la communauté. L'éducation, travailler ensemble, avoir confiance les uns dans les autres. Et surtout, ramener les pères à la maison pour qu'ils éduquent les enfants. Father, they come home to educate the boys.
Yes.
And not only the lady who are alone with them.
I'm glad to have had this opportunity to be here, and I look forward to a return trip where we can sit down and talk some more.
Is there any point, any issue I don't ask you, and you want to provide us? Est-ce qu'il y a un point que dont je n'ai pas parlé et dont vous avez envie de parler, vous?
There's, in our society, there's so many areas that we could spend time if we had a lot of time to talk about.
Okay.
But you have helped me discuss those that are probably in my mind right now the most important. The family.
Family.
The children. The home. The community in which we live. If you get those down, everything else over time is gonna work out. There's a lot of struggles in our world today, so we have to work collectively to make a better place in which we live.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Monsieur Ralph Slaughter a insisté sur le point absolument essentiel, le rôle de la famille, le rôle de l'éducation, le rôle de la confiance, de trust, la confiance que chacun des membres de la communauté doit avoir avec les autres, et surtout le fait qu'il faut avancer ensemble, together, travailler ensemble and work together.
Yes.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And we are very, very happy to meet you. And this will be very spread.
I'm happy to meet you and to participate in this. Keep up the great work you are doing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.